Hello, lovelies. You're listening to episode 75 of the Broken Enchantments podcast, written and read by Elizabeth Wheatley. That's me. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Be sure to check out my Patreon for next week's episode, now available. You can check out the links below. Happy listening. You really did something to get in his bad books, Lucan muttered. He grabbed her arm from behind, wrenching it up between her shoulder blades. Janir cried out, struggling weakly, but to no avail. Lucan slammed his fist into her welts, and it was all she could do not to scream. That's for the elbow to my ribs. He shoved her out of the circle of runes, and the chance for her to destroy the chalice had passed. The voices came closer. Within moments, the room was flooded with enchanters and enchantresses in colorful robes. There had to be at least 20 of them, and their faces blended together in one screaming mob, milling in a circle around her and Lucan. Who were they? Why were they here? What had they done? There had been a bloom of magic, and... Silence! Lucan bellowed. The throng faltered, and he didn't give them the chance to recover. I am Lucan von Mar Argotolum, and you will bring the Lord Argotolum's honor guard to me now. Lucan spoke with an air of command and cool confidence that would have been impressive for a seasoned general. Janir wondered again why her father didn't just let Lucan be the next ruler. Still, the enchanters hesitated. Now! The prince's forcefulness bore fruit this time. Several robes rustled, and a few bright figures disappeared upwards into the temple. Janir hung her head, staring at the chalice. Lucan's grip tightened on her arm, twisting it just as far as it would go without dislocating. She blinked back tears, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing her react. At the same time, she couldn't quite bring herself to strike him again. It would be pointless resistance anyway. Lucan shoved her farther from the chalice, and the priests relaxed a little. He never let go of her arm. The patter of feet and the tramp of boots heralded the arrival of the honor guard. 3 of them, figures in black armor that strode straight for the pair, parting the sea of priests. Janir kept her head down as the 3 guards neared. Lucan tensed, and she could tell he was raising his chin. You're alive. It was hard to know what Cerilius felt about that statement. Janir looked up as he took in her battered, yet very alive state. Disappointed? Cerilius didn't answer. He closed the distance between them. I'll take her, Prince. The Morton glared over Janir at Lucan. Lucan's grip tightened. He said nothing, but some unspoken challenge passed between the prince and the warrior. They stared one another down for a long moment. Were they fighting over who would return her to the Lord Argotolum? Or was this about something else? Let her go. Cerilius's growled words were testy, almost threatening. It was hard to believe that Cerilius would sound threatening to a prince of the royal house, but there was no deference in the Morton's voice. To Janir's surprise, neither of the other 2 honor guard, Canicade and a Mortana whose name Janir didn't know, looked to be questioning the exchange. Finally, Lucan released Janir. Cerilius grabbed her just above the elbow and hauled her away from the chalice's chamber. Janir glanced over her shoulder to the spellcasters of Tarkoth, fussing over the holy relic. Janir only regretted that she had not had the chance to damage it at all. Lucan walked with the other 2 honor guards on either side. Was that out of respect? Janir wasn't sure. Lucan ignored the escort, following stoically after Cerilius and Janir. Cerilius was not gentle as he took her back through the maze that was Tarkoth's hallways and corridors. He dragged and jostled her along without a second's remorse or hesitation. Janir tried to remember the route they took so she'd be able to find the chalice again later, but Cerilius took the most complicated way Janir had seen yet. They doubled back on the same mosaic of a hunt scene at least 3 times before Cerilius finally saw fit to lead her somewhere other than in circles. The other 3 Argatolums followed close, without a word. In spite of herself, Janir missed Valmakin, the way Cerilius had treated her then, the way Canicade had joked with her. It saddened her more than she would ever dare tell anyone. Janir was toted to a familiar steady door. She could feel the Lord Argatolum's presence from inside the room. It was a dark shadow that fell across the edges of her thoughts, bringing a foreboding with it. She stumbled through the door compliantly. Her sore body made it painful to walk, much less fight back, and resistance in this case would get her nowhere. A conversation abruptly ended with an unfinished sentence. Someone backed toward the wall, probably at a dismissive hand-wave. Janir studied the floor as Cerilius released her arm. She was aware of the Lord Argatolum marching in a circle around her a moment later, surveying the damage. Her tattered clothing, the cuts and bruises peering out from under the dirt smeared over her skin. In the corner, Drusilla loomed over a crumpled figure. Janir looked hastily away, afraid to see. Finally, the Lord Argatolum stopped. "I'm amazed that you survived that. We knew you had, but impressive nonetheless." Janir made no answer. He looked past her to her brother. "Lucan." "I'm fine, Lord Father." "You've done well. This will have to be rewarded." The Lord Argatolum nodded in approval before returning his attention to Janir. "Resilience seems to be one of your more prominent qualities." "Lucan saved me," she emptily answered. The Lord Argatolum shot another glance at his son over Janir's shoulder. "Yes. We shall have to find some reward indeed." "We found them in the chalice's chamber, my lord," Canicade interjected. "Lord Lucan was twisting Princess Janir's arm." A long moment passed before the Lord Argatolum spoke. "And why was that?" "She provoked me, Lord Father." Janir's heart plummeted in her chest. "She provoked you?" "Yes." "How so?" Lucan didn't even blink. "She wouldn't shut up, my lord." The Lord Argatolum stared at Lucan for a long moment. Then his face broke into a smile, and that frightened Janir far more than anything else he could have done. "Yes, she can be irksome, can't she?" Janir didn't think for a second her father believed Lucan. Nor did she think he had any illusions about the real reason Lucan had twisted her arm. "You did well, my son." The Lord Argatolum turned away. "You shall have to tell me everything once you are cleaned and rested." Janir wasn't sure if he meant that for her or her brother, but she expected it would apply to them both. "See them tended, Cerilius, and make sure my daughter guards her tongue more closely." Cerilius's hands clamped on Janir's shoulders, but she stood firm, staring at her father. The doors behind her opened, but she kept watching the Lord Argatolum. She didn't know if it was wise to ask now, but it was important. "Is there something on your mind, daughter?" The Lord Argatolum kept his back to her, reaching for a scroll of parchment tossed atop the table. "Seven." "He's fine, as are the others per our arrangement." The Lord Argatolum unfurled the scroll. It was a map of Brevia, with notations and circles drawn around certain cities. "Anything else?" Janir ventured to look past her father to Drusilla. The Mortana still stood in the corner, over a blood-spattered form. Drusilla's armor was marked with some of the blood, but Janir now noticed her father's scrubbed hands and fresh clothes. He had probably drawn most of it. Gulping, Janir peered more closely at the crumpled figure. Janir could hardly believe her eyes when she realized that the swollen face and skin splotched with cotton burns belonged to Amilla. Her cousin's hair had been hacked off in a haphazard fashion, and her clothes were torn. Janir bit her lip. The proud Argatala Mortana was reduced to a bloody pile, beaten almost beyond recognition. Janir couldn't feel anything but pity for her. The Lord Argatalam motioned to his niece lying at Drusilla's feet. "Does this bother you?" Janir didn't answer, but kept staring at her cousin. She noticed out of the corner of her eye that Cerilius refused to look at Amilla. He stared straight ahead. "She disobeyed me, and attempted to murder her future ruler," the Lord Argatalam stated. "I thought I was generous to even leave her alive." Janir gulped. "Would you rather I had killed her?" he asked, presenting the question as a challenge. Janir looked down, blinking quickly. "Fancy that. The girl who destroyed armies weeps for her enemies." "Can I see Seovan and Kyle?" Janir asked meekly, keeping her head down. "Do you not trust me?" The Lord Argatalam clipped. Janir didn't say anything. She had no leverage, nothing she could offer in return. She was at his mercy like the rest of them. She felt the Lord Argatalam's gaze settle on her for a series of heartbeats. "Morton Cerilius. Have the enchanter and the elf brought to her chambers in 2 hours. They may see her, but only under the supervision of yourself and whatever 3 honor guard you choose." Cerilius inclined his head in respect. "Yes, my lord." "Thank you, Lord Father." Janir kept her voice steady. She would have to learn to conceal her fear. Cerilius grasped Janir's wrist and led her from the room. Every part of Janir ached, but after seeing what had been done to her cousin, she felt nothing but guilt. It was hard to know exactly why. She followed after Cerilius, keeping close as he led her from the study.
You have been listening to Broken Enchantments, written and read by Elizabeth Wheatley. Don't forget to check out my Patreon for early access to episodes, bonus content, and lots of patrons-only freebies. You can learn more at elizabethwheatley.com. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. I'll see you next time.